Welcome back, everyone, to Curtain to Curtain. My name is Phoenix,
And I'm Lazuli.
and we are your adjacent theater kids. We are back talking another two musicals on our list. We are going from A to Z, and we are now officially in the A's. We kick off with Adam's Family and Aladdin, two former movies transformed into musical theater pieces. Lazuli. uh, this is your second time revisiting these particular musicals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it
What
is.
was your original impression, and how do you feel about them now?
Well, I really liked the Adams Family going into them the first time, and that still holds true. It's still a solid musical in my opinion. Um Aladdin on the other hand, I think my opinion of it's gotten worse since the last time I've
Really?
listened to it. I don't
Oh,
know.
really?
It just
That's
But
interesting.
yeah, I'm feeling a little spooky, a little kooky, if you will, a little zany,
Right.
a little kooky. If you catch my drift.
I gather.
So what were your initial thoughts of the Adams Family?
This is gonna be funny because I am the exact opposite.
Okay.
I mean, I obviously I've seen both movies, right? I've seen Adam's Family Values. I've even caught one of the animated movies that they did. I watched Wednesday. Wednesday's amazing. um, yeah, this musical, I believe it came out in 2015
2010.
or 2010.
Yes.
My goodness. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, so this one I feel like the most they had to go off of was the original two movies, and I think I read that the writer didn't want them to adapt the movies into the musical. He wanted them to adapt an original story, right?
Yeah.
From based off these characters into a story. Um, and I gotta say, I don't think it was the right decision.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, personally for me, I don't think it was the right decision. When you have an IP that noticeable with that level of notoriety,
Mhm.
I think it would have been smarter to use what you have to build a story around those characters, because for much of it, it felt like, and obviously, you don't have Raul Julia and you don't have Angelica Houston, you know,
Right.
Christina Ricci in these roles. So it's like you got people playing sort of outlandish versions of those characters, and on top of that, they're not telling the same story that you're familiar with. So it kind of felt like, I don't know what's the word. It felt kind of arbitrary what they were doing. Kind of felt
Okay.
like they were just stepping into someone else's role and
Mhm.
doing their own thing, which is cool. But I just because it was based on the IP, I felt like would have been better to stick with what you already have.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen any Adams Family
Oh,
media. I know
okay.
that, yeah, I know that they were originally comics and then they got adapted into movies and then the musical and then more movies and shows and now we have Wednesday and everything.
Well, actually,
Um,
before they were movies, they were actually a TV show as well.
yes, yes, TV
Yeah.
show. Comics, TV show, movies.
Yeah.
So, I know that going into it, I kind of sort of was just kind of like, I kind of know the vibes of what
Hmm.
I know that they're supposed to be a healthy family and everything. That's just kind of weird and just kind of does their own thing, but overall have pretty healthy family dynamics considering, especially in 2010 when the big thing was dysfunctional families
Yeah.
in like most media and everything. Because you got shows like Good Luck Charlie, Wizards of Waverly Place. I'm thinking of Disney shows because they're what I watched
Yeah.
as a kid. But like Malcolm in the Middle, uh, Everybody Hates Chris, like just very chaotic family dynamics surrounding the media at that time and everything. But I actually really enjoyed Adam's Family just because I like it doesn't do anything innovative, of course, and I like that about the musical. It's not trying to do anything too big. It's just an Adams Family musical, and I don't know. I enjoyed the plot personally. Granted, of course, it's not super accurate. From when I had this discussion about Adams Family first, they were discussing how back in like the comics and the older like media versions of them, they would not have cared if Wednesday was into a boy like that and
Right.
everything. But now they do because they're like modern media of the Adams Family is much more leaning into them being weirdos and stuff
Mm-hmm.
now, and more so going to the wayside the family like healthy family dynamic that they have of just loving each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it shows here, but I do still enjoy the plot just because it's a fun plot. I like how it's kind of sort of self-contained. It gives kind of sort of slice of life type of vibe and everything. Of course, it's the Addams Family, so how slice of life can it be? But when when there's a whole song about a kid being like, "Man, I just want to be electrocuted by my sister." I miss being electrocuted by my sister. But but I don't know. I enjoyed it, but I can see from the perspective of a long time Adams Family fan not enjoying it as much because of the plot and everything. I can see that definitely.
Yeah, like that was the only thing. I mean, like it's kind of big because yeah, like I would have loved to see the movie, either the first movie or the second. Oh god, I would have loved to see in the second. Like turned into a musical because there's so much great funny stuff, and especially in Adam's Family Values, that would have been hilarious as a musical. And I feel like it would have truly captured those characters and their essence and what they are. This one, I just never got that because I never felt like Morticia would act like that. I never felt like Gomez would act like that. Certainly don't think Wednesday would act like that.
Oh yeah,
So it
no.
just felt, yeah, it just felt wrong. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
In that way, it just felt wrong. Where it's like that's not really these characters. It's not really their
Mhm.
vibe. We know that they're different. We know that they're strange. We know that they operate on different rules. Like you just said, like
Right.
Pugsley just wants to be tortured. Like Fester's in love with the moon. Like
Yeah.
cool. Like all of that
I mean,
is
who isn't in love with the moon? Let's be real. But
true. Right. So like that's all like normal Adam stuff, but like the issue surrounding the boy and how they behave. It's just it was just
yeah.
too outlandish for these. Which crazy
Mhm.
saying that about the Adams family, but it
Right.
was like a little too outlandish for what that family actually is and how
yeah.
they typically behave. So
Yeah.
that threw me
Yeah.
off. I mean, the,
Understandable. Well, outside of that, I thought that the musical, and I've been saying this over the past week, I think that this musical is very camp.
mhm.
It's very campy. It's very, and I mean, I feel like the musical in and of itself, the songs and everything, not necessarily the plot, but just the vibe of the musical, I will say fits the Addams Family because it's so outlandish and everything. Like I said, you've got the song about Pugsley wanting to be tortured, and like a song about Fester wanting to be in love with the moon, and just like it's so camp,
Yeah,
which I think is why I enjoy the musical so much, even if the plot and the characterization isn't that strong. It's just such a fun musical to listen to, regardless for me. Just because, fuck it, why not? Like, yeah, sure, yeah, sure, these characters are being fucking weirdos. Yeah, why not?
hmm
I think a highlight song for me. Let me look at the the album
Yeah,
real quick because I cannot remember any of the names conveniently. Um,
there's a, there's a couple that I really love.
yeah. I really liked Crazier Than You. That was in like my original notes from when I listened to it originally. In my notes,
Yeah,
I wrote down that it was so kinky and that I hope they're having a great time afterward because
yes,
it's so silly and goofy. They're like, "Oh yeah, let's lean into the weird and everything," and I'm like, "Oh my
yeah.
god, yeah!" Like, it's so silly. Oh my goodness.
I love it. It's so
Yeah.
yeah. The lyrics of it are dirty. It's is so what's the word? When they're trying to mask it, but you know what they mean.
Oh yeah.
Like yeah,
The double entendres really
yeah.
go crazy.
Oh no, they go crazy in that song. So I love that. I
Yeah.
love it. What stood out to me, and this is I I think what really kind of made me a little offbeat with it. We found the slime tutorials for the shows a little late. I started watching it, and I found out that I think in the original run, or maybe in later runs, they added a couple of songs,
Oh.
and yeah, they shouldn't have.
Oh
like
no.
yeah, they really shouldn't have. Like I don't know if those songs were there in the beginning and they decided to scrap them or what, but because the soundtrack, the original soundtrack with the original cast,
Mhm.
smooth,
Yeah.
flows incredibly
Mhm.
smooth, tight, very tight. The stage version has like all like I think it has like 10 extra songs in it.
10. Oh my god.
Yeah, so yeah. And yeah, they're just not they're not up there, right? With the other ones. They're not
Mhm.
vital to the story. And they drag this story on
Oh
because there's so many
gosh.
more on there. So
Dragging's going to be a theme for this episode.
yeah. So like that was the thing. I was like, if I just listen to the cast album, I got no problem with it. Smooth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Goes very smooth. When I see it in context with the play, and then there's these extra added songs, I'm like, ugh, like this, it's slowing it down. It's not
Oh.
it's not keeping pace with the theme. It's throwing certain aspects of it off. It's too many ballads. It's ridiculous. It's
Oh
like
my
it's
god.
yeah, it's like it's too stuffy.
Ugh.
But in that regard, though, there are several songs, especially on the cast album, that I love. I love
Oh
so very much.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes, Crazier Than You is definitely one of them. I love Happy Sad. That's one of my
Oh
favorites.
yeah.
As a dad, that one really gets me.
Mhm.
Uh, One Normal Night, I think is awesome. Uh, What If, which is a Pugsley song about
Yeah.
wanting to be tortured. Yeah, so
Yeah.
all of those are amazing. Like there's a bunch of good ones in here. Like yeah,
Oh yeah.
let's not talk about anything else but love is a great one.
Mhm.
Full Disclosure, I love. That's a great song.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's like I said, if I just listen to the cast album, fantastic,
Oh yeah.
fantastic. And
Oof.
it's funny when we came across this one, and I was like, oh, this is the one we're doing, and I saw that it was Nathan Lane and BB Newirth. I was
Oh
like,
yeah, you were
oh,
so excited. You were like, "Oh,
oh,
this cast is stacked." Cuz they
oh my
even
god,
got
I was
Kevin Chamberlain in there. I was like,
right. I'm like, what?
"Stacked cast."
And I was for sure. I was like, oh, I know this thing won like 6 Tonys. Like I was for sure. I was like, I know this thing won. And I looked it up, and I was like, I think it was nominated for like two, and like
Oh,
nothing significant. Like it was like
yikes.
scenic design or something. Like so, I was like, whoa, and like I think it took on like one drama desk award. I was like, geez,
Oh,
like what the heck, bro? Like
damn.
this should have been an absolute banger. But
Right.
knowing the story, I see why it wasn't. Like,
Mhm.
like even though
Yeah.
you had the talents of Nathan Lane and BB Newirth, you can't get more well, you could get a little bit more legendary, but they're pretty up there when you talk
Right.
legendary Broadway names. I was just like, oh, I know they just murdered this, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, it was okay.
It was okay. Yeah, no. I agree. I think in my original ratings, I gave it a pretty high rating. I think it was one of my highest if I remember correctly. Yeah, I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Originally. Because it was just like I said, it's just a fun musical. Doesn't really do anything new and crazy, especially for the time. I think one of my notes back then too was that I really like that it has an overture, and I think that
Yes.
more
Mhm.
musical, like more modern musicals, should do that.
Mhm.
If it fits the plot and like what's going on, of course. Like I wouldn't expect a musical like Hades Town to have an overture. Doesn't make sense for it.
Are you sure?
Um
That would be awesome. I don't know.
well, I think it would be awesome, but I also think that they kind of already have an overture in Hades Town
Yeah,
with the first song, so it's
with the first song.
unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's unnecessary, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll get there when we get to the ages. But like I think, like I said, I think more musicals should have like highlights of the orchestras. I feel like especially during like the mid tens, people kind of sort of threw the pit orchestras to the wayside in order to highlight the actors and stay in like the staging and everything. And that's cool. Obviously the actors are there and they're great. Obviously we've got like talents like Anthony Ramos and BB Newworth and Nathan Lane and other really like Adina Menzel and other like top tier actors and everything, but it's like they wouldn't be shit without the pit. They wouldn't. There would be no musical without the pit. It would just be a play at
Yeah.
that point.
Of course, the band member, what I'm saying,
Of
gotta
course, of
gotta,
course, of
gotta throw
course.
some love to
Gotta
the
hype myself up, you know.
band. I
um
completely agree. You know what I'm saying? Gotta hype up the pit, man. They
oh
they do an
yeah.
amazing job.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and like definitely, I agree. Like, I mean, I don't know if you necessarily need an overture. I know, like
No.
in "Come From Away," like they end the show, and then the whole last song is just the band.
Yeah.
So like
Mhm.
they close it out with that. So, I think yeah, if you can find unique ways to like highlight your pit, I think that's a really cool thing. Whether
Oh
it's an
yeah.
overture, whether you let them in the show,
Mm-hmm.
however
Oh
you like
yeah,
it.
like another
Um,
good example, and we'll get there when we get to the G's. But Great Comet does a really good way of also
right,
incorporating the orchestra because they're stage members functionally in that play. So
right.
is Hades Town, but like more so even with Great Comet because like not only are they just standing there on the stage and everything, but they actually like interact with the characters and stuff. It's
Mm.
but anyways, getting ahead of ourselves.
We really want to dive deep
We
into
really
the
want to get into
yeah,
the other musicals.
we really want uh,
We'll
but
get
let's
there.
let's end it for Adams. Where what is your official ranking for Adam?
I would give it a solid B.
Okay, all right.
Solid
I
B.
I wish I could be higher. Um, I'm gonna go to C minus on this one. Yeah, a C minus. It was
Understandable.
fine. I mean, like, what really saves it is this music, and of course, you got two of the most talented legends in the game. That's what
Mhm.
really saves it for me. But, ugh. that
Yeah.
story's rough for me.
Mhm.
Um, it were just, I think there were better options. But yeah, so you said B.
Yes.
Look it up. B for you. C plus, C minus. Did I say C minus or just
He
C?
says C minus.
C minus. C minus for me. Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, doke.
All right. All
Let's
right.
move on to the most anticipated.
The most anticipated musical on Broadway yet. Oh my god. You know, let's head on over to Agrabah.
Agrabah, you know it. Yes.
Yeah.
We are talking Aladdin Now this one came to Broadway a little bit later, I want to say.
Slightly later, I believe the cast recording said 2014.
2014. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
So
I actually
right
think this
before the
was,
big musical boom of the
yeah,
25th, the
of the
mid
20s.
2010s.
Yeah. Because this was also around the time or before the time of The Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cuz
Yep.
I remember there was a video where both casts were in the airport. I guess they had gotten delayed, and so they just started busting out their work. You know, they saw that
Makes
the
sense.
Aladdin cast was there. They was like, "Oh, it's on then." You know what I'm saying?
Arabian Arabian days, more often than not, are hotter than hot in a lot of good ways. Arabian nights, Arabian moon, a fool off his guard, you're falling for heart out there on the dune.
So they had them a little competition. So I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. This was around the big musical theater boom of that time because
Mm-hmm.
you had these are two big Disney musicals.
Yeah. And
You
then
know,
right after that, you've got the big tanks that really pushed musical theater of like Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen and Heathers and Mean Girls and all of that.
yeah,
So,
all of that, boom, all of that took over.
yeah.
So Aladdin, this one you got the work of Alan Menken. You got lyrics, I think, by what was that Howard Ashman? Or was the
Looks like
producer?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Howard Ashman, Chad Begellan.
And Tim
I'm sorry
Rice.
if I'm mispronouncing that. Yes, and Tim Rice. Uh, you had James Monroe, who I absolutely love,
Oh,
who is
yes.
who played the genie in this one, and
Mm-hmm.
Adam Jacobs, who played Aladdin. And you had, uh, I believe it
Courtney
is
Reed, I
Courtney
believe.
Reed, yeah,
Yeah.
who was Jasmine.
Jasmine.
So this again, I think both of these musicals have a very interesting issue where it's like if
Mm-hmm.
you listen to the soundtrack, fantastic. Right?
I don't know about that for Aladdin. I don't
Okay,
know.
where are you at on this?
I think that the ballads are pretty strong. I think the ballads are weird. Now I have seen the Aladdin movie.
Right?
So I do have like a known perspective of what Aladdin should look like coming into the musical and everything. And granted, I haven't seen the live action, don't plan on it, but
Yeah.
um
It's actually really good. Actually, I'm not gonna
you're the
lie,
first
really.
person I've heard that says it's really good. um
Yeah,
but
those movies are usually miss, but
yeah.
they they did a good one on that
But
one.
like the ballads are very interesting. I think that they needed to fill space, of course, that would have in the movie had been used to do characterization a different way. So I think the ballads do their job of characterizing the characters pretty well. Aladdin, feels a lot more human and less like a caricature of a thief and everything. And Jasmine is no longer this damsel in distress functionally because of
Right.
her ballads and stuff. However, we get to the ensemble pieces. Now, I love me a good ensemble song. I love me a good ensemble piece. Love me some overlapping lyrics, love me some fun dancing. However, listening to them, especially it's especially pointed out in A Friend Like Me, that song is 8 minutes long. And it doesn't need to be. I feel like the writers kind of sort of missed why Friend Like Me worked so well in the animated movie, and it was because of how fast paced it was. There were constantly new things being thrown at you, constant references, etc., 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 just being thrown at you, and the song was over and everything, and you were just like, "What was that?" I guess that's the genie. That's the genie's vibes. However, they slightly changed that by making the song so long that it, just like Adam's Family, it drags. And especially I was like, I didn't look at the slime tutorial before it for Aladdin, but I was like, let me see just Friend Like Me, let me see if maybe it works in context, let me see let me see it staged, and it doesn't. It's still just really long. Like, I feel like a lot of those sections, while they're cool and fun, I feel like the tap section specifically, I can think of, too long. The section of Disney pointing out all the IPs they have, and, you know, James singing, you know, Beauty and the Beast and whatever, and, you know, the other songs, I can't remember them off the top of my head. I know one of them's from A Little Mermaid. Like, too long. And, like, it just keeps going. And even, like, Prince Ali, the, like, song that, like, brings in Act 2, I'm like, this is so long and it's not doing anything. Like, if it was doing something, I'd be less bothered by how long it was. Like, not to pull in other musicals, but another musical that has, like, a really long song, but it works in context, is from Great Comet. It's Letters. It's their act 2 opener, and it's like this whole song about, you know, the characters that you've already been introduced to writing letters to each other and everything. And it's kind of slow, but because it's moving the plot forward and you can see different characterizations of these characters and everything, it works despite it being a longer song and kind of slow. Especially points out just how writing letters is kind of sort of a longish process anyways, because you gotta, like, think about writing and everything. But, like, in, like, Friend Like Me and Prince Ali and the other ensemble pieces, it doesn't work because it's just constantly repeating, oh, this is the genie's a kooky guy, and da-da-da-da, look at all these references, look at all these IPs we as Disney have, ha ha ha, we own everything. And, like, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame because, like, the composition of the musical, just like Addams Family, is really good. Like, they got a really good pit for the musical and everything, and the actors are also really good, and it feels like a waste of talent having them drag out performances like that and everything when that's time that could have been spent doing other things. And honestly, if I wanted to listen to a musical that was about Aladdin specifically, I would rather listen to Twisted, which is a Star Kid musical that's much more entertaining and than this.
Yeah, I think the issue that the musical and the live action movie had is that, and blame Ron Clements and John Musker for this, but in the original movie, they just let Robin Williams do.
They just let him do whatever the fuck he wanted.
Like, literally, they were just like, we don't care. Like, anything you want. Literally, they gave him no boundaries. Which I'm like, are you insane? You gave Robin Williams no boundaries? Are you out of your mind?
Oh, like, my god! You know, there are so many lines they had to, like, take out because
I'm like, you are
going.
You are literally talking about the most comic genius mind of all time. Like, literally,
R.I.P.
Like, seriously. So, like, I feel like the problem for a lot of people is, like, that performance is so damn iconic. It is so embedded in the Aladdin, you know, typography that, like, everyone wants to do it differently so that they're not compared to Robin Williams, which, fair, right?
I would love to see different takes of Genie. And I think outside of, like, a Friend Like Me and everything, I think that James does a really good job portraying Genie and everything. Of
Yeah,
like, he's still pulling in the quick like wit of references and like breaking the fourth wall, kind of like Robin Williams did, but taking his own spin of it. I just wish A Friend Like Me wasn't so long.
yeah, and that's another thing because it's like also that this is like Aladdin is one of their highest regarded Disney
Yeah.
films.
Mm-hmm.
And people know it. People know it backwards and forwards. So like the idea is you're translating it to a different media. You want to throw things in there that are a little different, that are, you know, so that people like take to it in a different way, in a new way, so
Right.
that they're like, okay, this is a different version. Yeah, but I think I think the way they go about it, I'll give them props for
Yeah.
trying. I'll give them
Mm-hmm.
props for trying. It's going to be like it won't be the version that we think of. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what it is. It's like you extended it too far. You added so much that while it's definitely different and unique and probably works for the stage, it won't be the
Yeah.
version that we hold up in high regard because it's
Mm-hmm.
just too long, too much, and not enough of of
Yeah.
what made it work. So that's the only thing about that one.
Yeah. Otherwise though, I think it's a solid musical. Like I said, I think the ballads in here are great.
Mm.
I think that they humanize these caricature characters that we get, or almost caricature like characters that we get in the original movie. Um of Aladdin and Jasmine and everything. Like I said earlier, like Jasmine's a kind of sort of damsel in distress, but in the musical, she feels much more like a character and not just a damsel in distress. Like she's like, wow, I really want to get out of here. I hate it here. I want
Right?
to do my own. Like she has such a good "I Want" song and
Yes.
everything. Um, and it's so nice to listen to, and it's such a nice change of pace, especially for like Disney movies at that time, because like there's the Little Mermaid, there's Beauty and the Beast, where like there are all these characters who just kind of sort of feel like caricatures of what they're supposed to represent.
Hmm.
um so yeah,
That's
really good ballad.
yeah,
I think Aladdin's ballad is a little bit weirder, just
yeah.
because like where what I guess his parents are dead. Okay. Like
I
I
mean,
don't
I
really
guess
know what to
he
do with this information.
right. I guess he grew up with his mom, and I guess she passed away, and
Yeah.
like he's like, "Don't worry, I'll make you proud." And we're like,
Yeah.
for anyone who's sat with this musical in all of its forms since like 1992, you're like, he had a mother,
Yeah.
like
Like, oh, okay. I mean, like,
well,
obviously he had a mother, but
I
like,
mean, clearly, but
what?
like, like,
It's so out of left field.
yeah,
But
it's
I
like
will,
it's
I will,
literally like the one character who's never been brought up the
no.
entire time.
But I will say it works for him and everything. Like I said, it brings him out of that caricature of just being a thief.
Hmm.
It's a weird way to do it. Of course, I would not have done that.
Right.
If I was writing this musical, I would have just been like, man, I feel like his "I Want" song would have probably just been better if it was just more of a I want to do more with my life.
Well, I mean,
Which
that's
which it kind of is, but like
yeah,
less of the parent trauma.
yeah. I mean, but like he already kind of has that song though,
Yeah, he
like
does. Yeah.
yeah, the one jump ahead. No, not one jump ahead.
No, no.
What is it? Uh, uh, God. Oh, they took it out. Yeah, but he had. I know in the original, like he has that song,
Yes,
or
he
maybe
does.
it's
He
just a
does.
reprise of one jump ahead. But like
Mhm.
where he's saying like I'm more than just a street rat,
Yeah.
something like that. And they kind of just take that idea, and that's when they create "Proud of Your Boy," which I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, but I don't know why they made it the mom character when it's like
Yeah.
like through all of Aladdin lore, the one parent character that we hear about is his father. So it's like,
Right.
but
Like, I
but
feel like it would have made more sense if it was father, father son
yeah,
relation dynamics and everything. It would have worked more. But I mean, like I said, I still think it's a nice inclusion, even if it is kind of weird.
yeah,
Um, but overall, I think this musical could really benefit from just someone going through and being like, cut this section by like 30 sections. Cut that section by like 15. Like just someone to go through and like parse it down.
yeah.
Um
Well, I
Especially
mean,
cuz what I think they may have been trying to attempt is like a sung through musical,
mm,
like later musicals
perhaps.
that we have now. But it doesn't work in this context. It doesn't work, and I feel like, especially if they're adapting a movie like Aladdin, I feel like a lot of the reasons why people like Aladdin is because of like all of the action that's happening outside of the music. So I feel like if like the inclusions of the ballads and everything is good, but I feel like if they maybe parsed it down and maybe having less, almost ironically less music would benefit the musical. I feel. So no, it's so funny because I was just like, yes, highlight the pit.
Right, right.
But like, I feel like the musical would benefit greatly from just having like less musical moving parts to move the plot forward and more, like just actual acting and speaking roles
Hmm.
and such. Because then I feel like it wouldn't drag as much. I don't know. I'm just trying to solve a problem that's never going to get solved because no one's going to sign me on to rewrite Aladdin. That's not happening. Disney won't do it. Disney's
Oh
too
man.
afraid for this of this mind of mine.
What I will say is the one thing that threw me off, and I don't know why it did because it shouldn't have, but not seeing Abu, I was like, huh, because
He
Abu
isn't
is
in
obviously
it.
a fixture of
Yeah.
the cartoons, but I was like, yeah, I mean, you're not gonna do a I mean, because Abu doesn't have any lines. He's
No.
not like a talking monkey.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, that. I mean, yeah, obviously you wouldn't have him, but I love that they replaced him with Babcock, Amar, and Kasim because I'm like,
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's an interesting take, and like we get more voices in the story. Um, and we give Aladdin some friends, which is like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
like that.
Find
I
it hard
like
to
that
believe
new
he
addition.
wouldn't have any friends.
Right, right. And their song together I think is great. Like I think they do some fun stuff together. I like their I mean they're not very fleshed out characters, but their addition gives more weight to Aladdin that I think
Yeah.
it desperately needed. And like it's one of those things where it's like you brought up how they improve on Jasmine in this. And yes, and I think they do an even better job of improving on Jasmine in the live action movie. I think they took from this and was like, "Ooh, we can really expand on that." The problem is that they expanded on Jasmine, but they gave nothing to Aladdin. So like that movie, even though it's called Aladdin, feels very much like a Jasmine and Genie movie. Like it really does. I feel
Yeah.
like one thing they could have took from this is giving Aladdin friends. Uh, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
And
yeah.
that might have highlighted him a little bit more to say like, this guy's not a like he may be a thief, but he's not a loner. He has a personality, he can get along with people. And I think that was a big help to this particular
Oh
story
yeah.
is like now I feel Aladdin more as a
Mhm.
presence in this story, and he works a lot more. Whereas you constantly feel like Genie or Jasmine or even Jafar have more agency than Aladdin does.
Ah.
Yeah. So
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Jafar
but
doesn't
I
really do much in this musical. I will
no, he
admit.
doesn't.
It's kind
He
of
plays
disappointing.
very standard villain in this
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Like even the final scene where, he makes his wishes or whatever, like it's done so rapidly fast.
Oh yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Shame. Shame
Right.
because in Twisted they make Jafar into an actual interesting character.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's best personified in the original movie.
Oh
For like
yes.
every version after that is kind of like, but I think also they knew like Jafar in the original version is kind of problematic, like extremely problematic.
Oh yes.
Like
I
so,
mean, let's be real, the entire movie in some capacity is kind of
kind of
problematic
problematic.
because
Yeah,
it's like this weird cross of like vaguely Middle Eastern place, but like here's the Taj Mahal, which like isn't in the Middle East at all. And like other weird like thing like I
oh
think one of
man.
my other notes for this musical, if I remember correctly, back in the day was that I really didn't like how they couldn't decide. Like, my one issue with the music of the musical is that they couldn't decide if they were gonna lean into it being like Swana region
Mm,
music or
mm.
or like a
Which
Broadway
Broadway
musical
musical? Yeah.
because they constantly flip between the two. It's like, oh my god, there is a way to blend these two. You guys are just being lazy.
That's something very interesting too, because oh God, I hate to keep jumping ahead to other
No, that's
music,
okay.
but like, yeah, when you get, I think that's something very specific to a lot of the musicals that I'm seeing now, is like if there's a specific time period or a specific region that we're discussing, the blending of that music and that era and that time period is it's a lot more in the forefront
Yeah.
of that musical, like, as opposed to just trying to do it Broadway style. Like, I think of Hades Town, I think of In the Heights, like very much centering the genre and like the period or the places, or that they're in, as the focal point of the music,
Mhm.
which I think was something like foreign to Broadway
Oh yeah, at this
for a
time.
long time, really.
Yeah.
And like, it's funny to me because, like, I'm a country music fan now, right? And people be like, "How can you listen to country?" And I'm like, "Well, the country music of the '70s and '60s,
Is
no,
not the country music we have now.
it's not the country music we have now." Yeah, so like we got a totally different kind of country music now. So I'm like, this I vibe with. Like I couldn't do the banjo playing stuff of the past. Like that's too much.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of how I feel about Broadway. Is like its evolution a great deal, and
Oh
I think
yes.
having more diverse voices in Broadway is what has tremendously helped it a great deal. To
Definitely.
where, like, yeah, you are seeing the thought process of centering certain music for the period, for the
Mhm.
style that you're doing. uh that has brought a lot more creativity, a lot more nuance into Broadway that was
Yeah.
missing before.
Mhm.
But yeah, so like here, it's Disney. I love you, Disney. Like I do. You
I
piss me
know.
off, but I do. Like, you piss me off a great deal, but I still love you. This is just the thing about Disney is they're like, we are going to tell this story, but we're Disney.
Yeah. And it's a shame because like they do The Lion King
Right.
and it's so much better. Like animated movie better in my opinion than Aladdin
Of
and the
course.
musical. Like
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of goes without saying, but yes.
like I don't know about the live action.
Oh no, no. Live action Aladdin wins. Live action Aladdin wins, but
Yeah,
that's the only time it takes the W. Uh,
right. Like it does a much better job of like blending of cultures and like telling a story.
hmm
Like we get like everyone's like, oh yeah, Lion King's, the plot of it's just the plot of Hamlet. And it's like, okay, but like it's Hamlet. Of course people are
Right.
gonna like
Exactly. It's like it's still Hamlet. You know that, right?
right.
Uh, like, and like the one thing I will say about this musical is which threw me off a bit, right? Because I was like, I distinctly remember Aladdin, the movie, and I'm
Mhm.
like, it's got like maybe 5 songs in it.
Oh yeah,
Like,
there's
you know
like
what I'm
not.
saying?
It's very sparse in
It's a
comparison to
very
the other
like
Disney musicals, especially like
yeah,
the animated movie. Like Little Mermaid had a lot more music in it.
right.
Beauty and the Beast had a lot more music in it. Mulan, like,
Yeah.
and
I
then
was
like,
like
oh yeah,
Aladdin got like 5 songs in it, like for real.
yeah,
Like it's got One Jump Ahead, Friend Like
Arabian,
Me, Prince
Ara-
Ali, Arabian
Arabian
Nights,
Nights,
and A Whole New World. And
yeah,
I was like, and that's it. I was like, so how do you turn this into a musical? And you could really feel them stretching
yeah,
in this one to
yeah,
really fill it out and make a full musical. And I feel like that's something noticeable, like that you don't get with Lion King. I mean,
mhm,
obviously Lion King has more songs, but also like the in the Broadway version, like the new ones that they add, mwah.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, they really go for it. Like
mhm,
it fits in the story. And here I'm not saying that they don't fit in the story, but it's like you really had to change the story in order for them to fit.
yes,
Pretty much a great deal.
mhm.
So I mean, I still think it's fine. It's just
Yeah, I think that Aladdin overall it's fine. It tells the story of Aladdin, cultural issues and laziness and writing issues
yeah,
aside. It's it's
fine.
the musical of all time.
All right. So, what is your final ranking rating for
I
Aladdin?
give it a C. I give it a C. Maybe even a C minus.
I'm gonna ride a C with you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go solid C. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It it
It-
it does what it needs to do, and
it's like
that's about it.
it's a happy medium in between the animated movie and the live action movie.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, like, but that's it. And like,
Mhm.
if we're ranking them, it's in last. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
still fine. Like, so there you have it. We've gotten through our first batch of A's, Aladdin and the Adams Family. What do we have next?
Next, we have Anastasia. So we're going to
Hmm.
20th century Russia. I almost said 19th century, but that's the other Russian musical. And Annie.
Oh,
So
okay.
interesting musicals there.
So
Um,
now we are highlighting female protagonists in the
yeah.
next batch.
Mhm.
Okay, this should be interesting.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm pretty familiar with Annie.
I think
Um,
everybody is.
yeah, but Anastasia's new to me. I don't even think I've seen the Disney movie of
I haven't
Anastasia.
either.
Yeah.
I've only listened to the musical at this point. I will
Okay.
say you're
So
in for a pretty good time. If you like Great Comet, you're probably gonna like Anastasia.
we shall see. All right. Well, let's get out of here. Lazuli, thank you once again
Yeah,
for being
thanks.
a great adjacent theater kid. We'll see you guys next time on Curtain to Curtain. We should come up with a really cool like outline.
Yeah,
Like
outro.
curtains out or lights out
Yeah.
or exit stage left or something. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah. We'll figure that
We'll
out.
figure it out. Yeah. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.